We're live. It's time.
All right, we are live. I just had to unmute myself on Spaces. Evie, GM, or good afternoon. Everybody else, what's up? And we are here. Now, we missed yesterday's show because, well, long story. That
Holiday in Canada.
We're just going to leave it in the past. It was a holiday in Canada, and we had our producer was away and a whole bunch of things, and I just couldn't get my poop in a group on time. So
get it together, JD.
I know. We had a special guest lined up, Ron Hammond from the Blockchain Association. We will have him back one of these days. So apologies for anybody that showed up to listen or watch the pod and found there was nothing. So that's the first time we've done that in like 140 episodes probably or something like that.
Pretty good, hey?
Yeah, pretty darn good. Definitely not feeling too
Pat myself on the back, even though we screwed up. Okay, so today we get to move forward. And we're going to talk about PayPal because that's the hot thing on crypto today.
Yeah, PayPal and Musk. Two of my favorite topics. What else?
Kind of the same topic, really. But then also Solana, and we're going to go back in time a little bit and talk about the Viper attack because some of those funds were returned.
Interesting. This was from Alchemix.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, all right, that is what we're talking about. But what are you wearing today, JD? Got a new hoodie on.
Yeah. Shout out to Tashi. They got new hoodies which have writing on the sleeves too. I'm a big fan of that because then it doesn't look like quick, cheap merch. So good job, ladies.
On the sleeves.
Ladies of Tashi. It's just got the
yeah, that's nice.
Finance, and then it says connect, deposit, transcend. So
all right.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. Quick reminder for everybody, we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern every day, except for yesterday. But every day going forward, we're here. Same place, same time. We're all over the place. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Spotify, soon to be Apple.
Play the video. Stop delaying. I want to talk about PayPal.
No.
Let's go.
Okay, just wait. I got to change my sound. So anybody on Twitter Spaces, we play a little video at this point. I'm going to try to give you sound so that you can hear it.
It's been working lately.
It has been. But if for 24 minutes or 24 seconds or so you can't hear anything, now you know why. And with that, let's fucking go. All right, we're back. That was the longest of all time because it took a minute. Anyways, we're back. We are now live.
Okay, PayPal. So PayPal has launched a stablecoin. People love it. People hate it. Let's talk about why they love it first. Okay. Are you stoked about this? Do you think it's a good thing that they've done? Do I get to talk about PayPal on Thursday's crypto arm races from now on? Like, what does having a stablecoin actually mean for PayPal?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, stablecoins print money. So pretty much the vast majority of the yield that is earned off those stablecoins when they're deposited, or off the fiat, when it's deposited, goes directly back to the issuer. Like some of it goes to the liquidity providers, but a lot of it goes right back to the issuer. So from a financial perspective, PayPal's trying to figure out how to keep their piece of the pie or even grow it in a new payments ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And I think this is their first step. They're confident in their own stablecoin and the transparency and management of said stablecoin. It's a big brand that really covers TradFi and small
Absolutely.
business, medium business, large business. Like it's a big brand that everybody knows. So from that perspective, I don't mind it. The thing that I don't like about it is I'm not sure if we need 10 million USD stablecoins, like fiat-backed stablecoins directly.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a couple of majors, USDT, USDC, but I don't know. I just wonder about this. I wonder if this is the answer. If these large institutions corner all the revenue, because it's kind of the antithesis a little bit of the space. What I would rather see is these large institutions partnering with their liquidity providers they're going to take a haircut in terms of revenue, but I think they'd see a lot more scale if it was meaningful win-win scenarios. But this to me just seems like somewhat, and I'm a big fan of PayPal. They've been great stewards of supporting crypto for some time, especially PayPal Ventures. So, I mean, this is definitely positive. I'm not sure if we need more fragmented liquidity, but PayPal, as far as new issuers go, PayPal probably would have been at the top of my list. So I'm a fan.
I mean, it's probably good. But if we see that, for example, BlackRock gets their ETFs and PayPal has a stablecoin, that probably is that bridge between Web 2 and Web 3 that we've been looking for onboarding millions and millions of users to crypto. Any institutional involvement will slowly eat away at what's already here. So it's kind of like pick your poison, right?
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see how this rolls out. I'd like to see, I suspect they wouldn't have launched this without pretty sizable commitments for initial liquidity. So it'll be interesting to see how it launches. If it launches with, $1 billion worth of liquidity or something, or maybe not $1 billion, but a lot. Then I think it'll have some good momentum. But if they just launch it and hope to God people do something, I'm not sure if it's going to be that impactful. But I guess we'll see.
There's some fun about this in that PayPal's stock actually dropped about a third because they didn't have really good forecasting in terms of revenue and profit. So is a move like this going to save them from themselves, or?
Well, I
mean, is it just diversification? Like, I don't know. I like to think about what their intentions are. Does that make sense?
Well, I think I don't know. Obviously, this is speculation, but if I was in PayPal's shoes and seeing the entire world really starting to look at more efficient ways and to transfer money and CBDCs and blockchain and all of this stuff, I mean, they could probably hold on to their somewhat monopoly in P2P payments and point of sale and stuff. They can probably hold on to that for a few years, but eventually, if they don't start building and cornering opportunity in the space, they're going to lose their opportunity. So I think this is probably smart, just from a business diversification standpoint, future-proofing PayPal a little bit. I think it's smart. I'm not sure if the stock price is going to do anything, but with my bias in mind, I mean, it's pretty lucrative and it's relatively sticky. Like, quite often people put their USD as collateral and it just sits there and they earn yield on it over and over and over and over again, they being PayPal. So I think it's a really consistent revenue stream. There's not a ton of volatility, generally speaking, on stablecoin revenue. The value doesn't fluctuate ideally too far from $1. So it's not like you wake up one day and it's only worth 20 cents, unless you're Terra Luna and USD.
That's not.
But anyways, I think this is interesting. There's been some FUD on the the fact that it's centralized, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we should talk about that actually. The attack vector. Have you?
Every stablecoin right now is centralized. So
but they found that it's a two-step process to delete somebody's funds and account, basically, right?
Right.
And so people don't love how easy that is. They don't love seeing upfront that somebody has that much control over their funds, but that's what centralization means.
Well, I'm gonna walk back what I said a minute ago, and not every stablecoin is managed that way. Some are algorithmic, obviously, but the vast majority of scaled stablecoins, that's how they function. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. They have to be somewhat centralized. I think people would be surprised if you looked how many protocols or how many wallets or how many centralized exchanges or everything that is one click away from deleting your account. And so, I mean, I feel like this is FUD for FUD's sake. People saying, "Oh, TradFi incumbents are coming. We don't want that." Yeah, I get it. But I'm just not sure. Again, I have a bias here in the sense that I think that nothing is going to be entirely decentralized at any amount of scale pretty soon. I think there's going to have to be a component of centralization. And the real task for us, from a regulatory perspective and just compliance and all of that stuff in the future, the real task for us, I think, is to try to figure out how to make that as efficient as possible. And so, I mean, we'll have to see. Try to decentralize as much as possible without obviously sacrificing the compliance of the protocol. So that's going to be our task, I think, is to try to thread that needle of where decentralize as much as you can, obviously, but there's going to be a component of centralization. So we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. So on the topic of PayPal and all of Musk's inventions, he says that there's no X token, there's no Twitter token, there's no crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that too if I was him, because if he said there was going to be, he could be accused of market manipulation and all this other nonsense and that. He thumbs his nose quite a bit at the SEC and other regulators. And so I think he would have a pretty damn big target on his back if he decided right now, with all of the uncertainty from a regulatory perspective, to launch a token. So I think to me, this is a no-brainer. Like, of course he would say no. Now,
well, it's interesting though, because Elon Musk says X has never launched a crypto token and we never will. And so that doesn't mean that they're not going to work with crypto or accept crypto payment or influence crypto or what have you. But to not have an X token is a pretty big deal, I think, because people were expecting that, right?
I actually don't mind. I actually don't mind it. I think it's a good opportunity to, instead of trying to create a monopoly with one asset,
absolutely.
Ideally, they'd support multiple assets. If they issue their own token, then you have a bias. So I actually don't mind it if he is serious. I mean, again, I would say we never have and never will. Otherwise, trying to get regulatory licenses like they're going to have to get will be a freaking nightmare if they think you're going to issue token later. So, I mean, I get it. It'll be a problem if he goes back against it, but he'll have some way to justify his comments, I think.
Yes.
He talked a lot about, well, not a lot, but he talked a little bit about Doge and how Doge could be potentially an X.com asset. We talked about this before. I think it was you and I. I don't understand the Elon Dogecoin thing. Like, part of me thinks he's never actually even owned any, and it's all just a giant, like, he's just mocking. It's a troll. But I mean, he's done enough things to lead you to believe that this might be a possibility. Like, he's just kind of been the cheerleader for Dogecoin. So we'll have to see. I think, his concept of X being the everything app sounds insane on the surface. Like, it sounds like, be everything to everybody. Like, all things finance, all things social, all in one application. Right. You and Amazon. But I mean, if someone was going to be able to do it, the guy that globally scaled Tesla, globally scaled SpaceX, globally scaled Neuralink, globally scaled PayPal. Like, I mean, if anybody can pull it all together, the guy understands a lot of industries: finance, engineering, space and physics. Like, shit.
And he started. So, like, in terms of finance, Twitter Payments has secured licenses for money transmission across America. So it's not too far off. which is not a super small feat.
Right. Because you have to get approvals in every state. Money transmission is kind of a pain in the butt because you got to have every state in the union they have slightly different rules. I think there's like 26 different rules out of all the 50 states. So anyways, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I mean, at least for the time being, you need transmission if you're if there's any commingling of fiat and crypto. It's two different asset classes. You have to have transmission license. So anyways, I think they're doing the right things. I think it's exciting. If they do launch support for multiple assets on Twitter, I think it's just overall good for the space. It'll be a lot more exposure, a lot more volume, a lot more legitimacy, I think, of what we currently consider a meme token in Dogecoin, if that's where you go. So I think this, to me, is positive. I like it.
Okay. That's a lot of centralization. You want to talk about something a little bit less little bit less sexy.
We transitioned to
a little bit less sexy.
We transitioned to decentralization, and the first item is exploits.
Yeah, they're both exploits.
Yeah,
super.
Not to imply that exploits are more common on DeFi protocols than CeFi protocols. They're just different. They're different types of exploits.
They just happen to have happened in the last few hours.
Yeah.
So Cypher has, which is on Solana, has had a $1 million exploit. So they've freezed all of their contracts for recovery. That's the news. If you're with Cypher and you can't move your money, that's fine.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know much about Cypher, to be honest. 1 million seems relatively small. I don't know what proportion that was of their TVL. Considering I've never heard of Cypher, maybe it's a big proportion of their
sucks
TVL.
That it was during their. I've heard of Cypher. It kind of sucks that it was during one of their DAO events. Not a good look. Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. That's the exact opposite of the PR that you're hoping to get during it.
Yeah. But like you said, 1 million isn't that much, so they caught it right away and they were able to freeze, and they're trying to fix that. So if you
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to do what Alchemix was able to do, and that is recover.
Alchemix has recovered, thank you very much, but they had to pay a $7 million bug bounty to recover.
But that's pretty standard. Like I've mentioned this a lot.
It's just huge. I don't know.
That 10 to 15% of as a commission or a white hat reward is pretty standard. It's probably better than what you would get if you tried to fence the money.
Absolutely.
So instead of your users losing all of their money, this way it's friendly law enforcement. You know, you capture it as a white hat instead of black hat then at that point, and hopefully the users.
How are you negotiating that anonymously? You know, like you can't use Zoom anonymously anymore. So like, are you just going on Google Meets with like a bandana on and a voice modulator? Like, what does that negotiation look like? Or does an app just suggest an amount for your white hat and that's what you get?
No, well, Immunify does. Like there's platforms like Immunify that you put your bounties up and then people submit things. That's totally different. That's a lot more structured. Yeah. There's a few ways that this happens. Generally, you don't get their phone number from someone. Otherwise, you wouldn't be negotiating. You just send the police. But
would you? I don't know if they would do anything unless you're in the UK where they're really building out their crypto crime.
No, I think the police would do something. It's a big exploit. It's a big theft, like big theft. The police don't see thefts of 60 million too often. I mean, that would be like a really big art theft or a really big bank heist or something. Like, I mean, it's kind of crazy. That's why the motivation to exploit blockchain protocols is so high, because the payoff, if you do it, if you find a loophole, the payoff is massive, or can be. Now it's a lot harder to get those assets out, thank God, which I think discourages a lot of this. But
yes,
we'll have to see. I'm happy that they got the assets back, and the users. The users hopefully will be made whole. It's worth noting that the Alchemix problem was actually part of the contagion from the Curve stable pool problem with why can't I think of that programming language? You said it right. You said it right before. Viper. That's right. Viper. And so that really sucks. And again, this is really important. Like, this is why we insist on working with groups like Chaos Labs and Gauntlet and L-Works, and there's quite a few. Warden Finance, I think, is another one that does economic risk management. And part of that is not only understanding your protocol, but understanding the risks of issues on other protocols and how that might impact your protocol. This would be a good example of. Now, there's nothing foolproof. I mean, just because we work with economic risk partners doesn't mean that we're never going to have any problems. But I think at least we would have some awareness of some of this before it happens. I don't know if Alchemix works with Gauntlet or Chaos or anybody of the like, but these contagion events are currently a pretty big problem. Composability is amazing. It's one of the big benefits of blockchain finance, but it's a double-edged sword because if everything's composable, now they're all connected to the issues of the other. So anyways.
Interesting. So just to wrap up our Tuesday.
Anarchy!
There's crypto anarchy in Prague. And so normally I would probably put this on the crypto arms race, but it isn't really the government that's doing it. It's not the country's government, it's the country's people. And it's a little bit cross-border. And part of why I thought this was interesting and why I thought we should talk about it is that last week when I was looking at Eastern Europe in terms of crypto, I didn't find that Czech had any particular, like they didn't have any crypto tax cuts. They weren't like in the news for any crypto related activity, that kind of thing. And so I found this a little bit later that Bitcoin is huge in Czech apparently. But also, I mean, I've traveled through Eastern Europe a little bit. I'm sure many people who listen have as well. And you find a lot of these buildings that are like anti-border liberation, sort of like cross-border buildings where you go in and they serve like beer and people talk about philosophy. And that's what this sounds like to me. I don't know why it's so popular in Eastern Europe, probably because the borders are so tight and they move and people really don't want to be controlled in that way. People are very, anti-occupation, very anti-monarch, that sort of thing. And so that's where we get groups like this that talk about crypto anarchy and how instead of talking about how it will change and democratize finance, they talk about how crypto will upheave the current political system. Yeah. And so I don't know. I just thought this was something that we should touch on. I think it's kind of fascinating.
I think it's interesting, and it doesn't surprise me that we're seeing this in places like Czech Republic or Argentina, Venezuela, in African countries, because often when you have political structures and leadership structures the way they do, you're at the whim of one person's ideas, right? Like your financial health is at the whim of one person's ideas. And history has proven that those one persons usually mess shit up. Like very rarely in history when you've had some sort of dictatorship or some sort of autocratic government, do things end up way better off than they would have, with democracy. And so anyways, I can see why this happens. I don't think it's going to last very long. Because the only place soon that you'll be able to like, if you have one of these protocols that is leaning into this anarchy thing, your only client base is going to be people in Czech Republic. Everywhere else is going to have, in my opinion, most other jurisdictions are going to have regulation. So we'll see.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying, and I did want to like look at this one that's in Prague because it's interesting. It's a group of people who have enough money to like have a building in a downtown kind of area, and people go in and they almost co-work on crypto projects, that kind of thing. They've hosted ETH Prague, they've hosted BTC Prague. Vitalik has joined this group. He's like gone in and spoken with them and that kind of thing. So like it's pretty high profile. You know what I mean? But so I didn't look too far into it. I was going to later today, but there's actually a huge crypto anarchism movement, including a number of institutions. So like the Austria School of Economics, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and others are embracing this concept of the crypto anarchist. And there's a crypto anarchist manifesto, and it's very like cross borders, you can't stop us. So I don't know. If you're looking for a crypto hub, move to Slovenia for the low taxes and then visit Prague, I guess.
I think philosophically it's a good idea. Not a good idea. I can see why it's picking up steam and getting some support philosophically, but I think practically and the potential for its actual application is near zero. Like we've talked about this so many times. Thinking that you can launch a protocol anonymously and maintain anonymity and effectively break the laws of other jurisdictions if you support any other jurisdiction. Like, I mean, it's a non-starter. It might take a year or two before they really figure out how to enforce the shit out of that. But like anything you've done, once the regulation comes out, like the statute of limitations is pretty long on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they can look back and say, oh, 2 years ago, you guys are idiots. We now know who you are. And you're also, here's a lawsuit for $100 million or some nonsense. I mean, we're all exposed to that potentially.
Totally. I don't know. I love it because it's like the ethos of crypto and they don't want to lose it, So one of their statements in the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto is, with a fast internet connection, reliable anonymity, and decentralized currency, you preserve freedom, which we have been losing as a society. And I feel like this is where that like left meets the right on the political spectrum, Yeah.
So even if I agree that we're losing control and we're losing privacy and we're losing all of this as a society, I still don't think that it's going to be viable with this as a solution. I mean, I do agree. We're losing a ton of freedom as a society. Absolutely. And I'm 100% in the camp that we should push back on that as much as we possibly can as a society so that we maintain our freedoms. But I'm just not sure this is the hill that is worth dying on, but we'll see.
So last thing I want to say about this is that they held a DeFi summit June 8th and 9th this year. And it wasn't huge, but they're like, you know how you have a theme for your conference?
Yeah.
Their theme was DeFi is under siege. And I like the extremeness that they're going for. I like the intensity. I like the passion. I like that they have an ethos and they're sticking to it. So
yeah, I'll give you that one. We can end on that. Quick reminder to everybody: we're a live show Monday to Friday, same place. We're all over the place.
Tell.
Like, share, subscribe. Yeah, if you can't tell, there's no editing that happens here. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with DJ.
Tomorrow is DJ Day. Yeah. Don't look at me so cryptically. And then I already have a really full brief for Thursday. There's been a lot going on in the crypto arms race this week already, so it's exciting.
Make sure you tune in. We're here every day with that. Today, Kiara, go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.